And that is the tendency of someone like Phyllis Wheatley. She is imitated by the dominant culture. In the second stage, the writer recoils from this mockingbird posture and plunges into the use of the cultural storehouse of his own people. Now, it's Fanon's contention that this has its limits as a point of diminishing return, and that the writer must move on to a third stage, which he feels is the true stage of the writer, and that is the awakener. He must awaken the people, or he should awaken the people to their true condition and the need for action. Well, this is a pretty rigid prescription. We begin to get a degree to recoil a bit because it would prescribe the way a writer will write. And I think any creative artist resists that. And to a large extent, I think that creative endeavor is a reaction to prescription. So there is that problem, but still it does reflect what has happened in some instances with writers in the condition coming from among the people in an oppressed condition. And there is a further stage, according to Fanon, that is the moment when the writer puts down the pen and engages in action. He was speaking of the Algerian Revolution. He was closest to that, and to the situation in Africa. He said when the writer puts down the pen, picks up the sword. But he distinguishes America from that, from those conditions, and points out that in America it's the extension of civil rights in the political context. Well, in this regard, he has followed Jones the prescribed scheduling of Fanon. And it is interesting that Fanon also has much to say about conferences and cultural conferences. He's not very happy with them. He finds that they are used in a divisive manner frequently to they're distracting, and that when his attitude is much like that of Goebbels. It said that when Goebbels heard the word, he was the Minister of Culture for the Nazi regime, when he heard the word culture, he would reach for his gun. What Fanon in effect is saying that when gentlemen of culture are confronted by a gun, they reach for some culture. It's a kind of a cop-out, a retreat from the kind of action that is necessary. But as he watched this in consciousness growing in Algeria and other places, he perceived that, he said this was perceived as a menace, and so that les hommes de culture would appear, the men of culture would appear, and this would distract from the undertaking the necessary action. It would, in Madame Kashek's phrase, obtend and obstruct. The struggle must go on. We want to conclude in time for some questions here. Struggle will continue as long as black Americans are not fully a part of the society. And I do want to say that to Sterling there is a debt, but it goes the other way. I owed so much to him as mentor and friend. I think we all have in his helping us to move in the direction to learn who we are. I know he would deny that. He says we had nothing to do with that. It's not his fault. But it's true. And Gloria and I both left the law. That shows how intelligent we were, Gloria, to move from the law to literature. They say we have something in common. we both have little dedication to the truth. Neither lawyers or poets. So maybe
universal truth.
I still got a chance at that. But I wanted to conclude with these lines.
I never saw a lawyer with his hands in his pocket. Always got his hands in somebody else's.
I want to conclude with these lines by a well-known poet in regard to the ongoing struggle. It is a gloomy path that we must go, and yet we know relief will come someday for these seared breasts, and lads as brave again will plant and find a fairer crop than ours. It must be to our hearts, our minds, our powers. These are the beacons to blaze out the way. We must plunge onward, gentlemen. Stan wrote that.
That's a wonderful, beautiful paper.
Perhaps there may be some comment here on the panel, and then questions if anybody has anything up here to say. All right, is there any comment or questions from anybody? Well, it's a big question. He's saying, did I imply that only in a homogeneous society can the creative consciousness work and produce and to achieve what might be termed universal? I just briefly, and it requires really much thought and discussion, I feel. I wouldn't attack that question of universal, but I feel there are two aspects of it that tend to work against it, to work in opposite directions. To one extent, it makes it very difficult when you don't share the common assumptions, the common values of your society. When the images and symbols of your society are those which tend to diminish you, then there is a barrier in the expression of creative spirit. On the other hand, and this is something again that James Earl Johnson pointed to, and is along this way, I believe it was, it is a stimulus to try to break through this barrier. But it's a problem. So many black writers have written about it. Baldwin has written about it. Chester Himes has written about it. The black writer must confront himself in a way which is very painful, because that identity is held in scorn by the larger society, and that's hard to deal with. So it is difficult, and it's why Johnson says that the black writer is so long emerging as white Southern writers, because they have this racial conflict to deal with first. Did you have something you wanted to say?
My question is that is there a public forum in which the poet or the community can reach out to the public and in a sense educate more of us to what poetry is all about? I seem to find nothing. Music we have Jackson and all the others. Your choice, you don't find it. Is there a society or something that could open up courses, good courses to the
Perhaps one of the other panelists can speak to that.
I can say, if I may, I would be glad to answer that. Actually, there is a great deal of poetry going on in this community. There is more poetry than one can actually even experience on a daily basis. There are readings here at the Folger Library. There may be a reading here tonight. Is this the black book? There are also readings in the black experience. There are intention readings. There are best books that are run by Edward Miller. There is a lot of poetry. The best way in the media, you're quite right. The media does not support poetry. The media takes the view that people are not interested in poetry. May address the point that large publishers are often not interested in publishing poetry. There is a myth, and I think it is a myth, that nobody really wants to know about poetry. Nobody's really interested in poetry. And I think that what we're trying to do, what we've been trying to do here in Washington, and what I tried to do way back when I ran a technical museum series with Sterling Brown read, and as a matter of fact, Sam Allen read, and Gloria actually they read in another series that I ran, as far as I'm concerned. So there is poetry. It's alive and well. And so if you really want to hear about it, get to the media. Tell them you want to know. Because it's all there.
Do you want to say something else? May?
Not particularly. I think Betty said just about what Sterling and I had whispered, that there are many, many groups here. You find a little group here that's drawn from the federal government. They are doing nice work, and they have put out a little magazine. And then the Arts Commission, and I'll have to support that. The Arts Commission sent young poets through the school. We produced a little booklet that the kids actually wrote, and everywhere that I go, invited for their commission on the arts, I try to encourage the kids, even if the teachers are just going to mimeograph their little poems and put in a little stapled booklet. That is encouraging. And you have to start early, I believe. And I think the schools are a good starting point.
I personally agree. I don't know, if there are more questions, fine. But what I'd really like to do, if we may, is ask the panelists to read each a short poem before we end.
I don't have any short
You
poems.
don't have to short poem. You can read a long Do you have, by the way, do you have your poetry, Sterling?
I didn't bring the music.
Well, that's all. Do you have one of my books here, Ben? Do you have one of my books here?
Yes, I do.
Well, okay. If you give it to
I
me.
can do a poem.
What you are?
What are they going to do when I break my leg?
Not me.
Do you have another answer?
That was a wonderful thing.
I'll take that one sheet.
All right, well, we have Sterling's book. No, we were looking for something else. I think there's some in the gift shop, but I don't know. Well, why don't you lend that back?
Unless you want your own book.
No, it's all right.
You need a book?
Well, I may. I'll see. Yeah.
Who's Mr. Tubman?
It's not all here.
It's a section of it there.
Yeah.
I know that book better than you because I'm a scholar.
Gloria, would you care to read?
The poem I'm going to read is called "This Child is the Mother." Black is, slavery was, I am. Sometimes when my mind idles, memory taps the subtle years of recollection, and I am locked into my kindergarten years, and seated in that Methodist simple stained glass bosom of the Lord, on a shining Sunday morning. Communion Day. The altar railing drips white. Behind it, housing the plum-red blood of Christ, stacked silver trays burn in the sun, flashing their furnace-tried love and redemption. Raised above them, on the pulpit, in the wit and wisdom of pastoral years, my father marches for Jesus, striding first left, then right, falling on one knee, then the other, as his voice rises from shout to shout, beseeching God's lost lands home. Come, he calls from behind his lectern standing. Let whosoever will come, he entreats, the visible sign of the cross, his arms outstretching heaven's saving offer of grace. So is the scene settling in. Its mood revives as a thin, uncertain voice unbosoms a sad, familiar fragment of song that picks its way forward from the rear, urged from throat to throat by its denomination of common life experience. The choir gives response. At ease in its box behind my father, I observe their stiff-robed bodies ignite and slowly begin to stroke their flooding fever as rocking forward and back they punctuate harmony. I am no longer at ease. It will happen soon, I know. That birth more terrible than all my small fears recognize. That blood-bathed eruption which is but the beast in reform of its labyrinth. It begins in the corners. On either side the ministering pulpit, the elders of the congregation, sitting self-segregated by sex and splendid in their Sunday formalism of pilgrim black and unblemished white, unlock the piston valves of their emotion in a turbulence of heel upon the hardwood floor. Antiphonally they begin to shout, to clap shaking hands and weep. Glory be to God, comes forth the cry. Praise his holy name, the joyous response. My strength and my Redeemer is the rejoinder. The church is awash with sun and singing. Antique dervishes invade the aisles in compulsive favan. History is metamorphized within the furlongs of my vision. Now it happens. She moves, that tall woman immediately in front of me, who hatted and wreathed in a tonnage of black veiling, has been sitting like some megalith of slowed time, mute and motionless, unresponsive to the joy and flux about her. But now she moves. Her center can no longer hold against the store of grace wedded to her drays. With the lightning's thrust it has cleaved her. She jerks and twists, whiplashed by memories that rip her headgear from her and force her arms up, overhead, in tight-fisted supplication. Pushing against some unseen weight, slowly she raises her bowed head until, bursting free at last, it falls back upon her shoulders. She opens her mouth. Out of it, rocketing upwards as if from her toes, jets an explosive cry that crashes and beats against the ceiling like some crazed bird in a frenzy of wings for distance. This is that moment to which I am frozen. This, that awesome time when more profoundly than by pigment I am informed of my blood heritage. And when, as I burrow into the protective folds of my mother, the outermost margins of my mind began to struggle with the unexplained metaphor in color, the mysterious verdures in history, the fierce physics of that soothing fountain outpouring from her side.
There was a man in Washington whom we called Sporting Daniels, who was one of our role models when we went to the supper show at the Howard Theater. He would be standing there. This is a poem about him called Sporting Beasley. Good Glory. Give a look at Sporting Beasley, strutting, oh my Lord. Top hat cocked one side, his bulldog head, striped four in hand, and in his buttonhole a red carnation. Prince Albert coat, form-fitting, corset-like, vest snugly filled, gray morning trousers, spotless and full-flowing, white spats, and a cane. Step it, Mr. Beasley. Oh, step it till the sun goes down. Forget the snippy clerks you wait upon. Tread clouds of glory above the heads of pointing children. Oh, Mr. Peacock, before the drab barn fowl of the world. The world is full. Forget the laughter when at the concert you pace down the aisle, Your Majesty, down to row A, where you pulled out your opera glasses. Majesty, it's your turn now, Sporting Beasley, step it off. The world is a rag bag, the world is full of heathens who haven't seen the light. Do it, Mr. Missionary. Great glory. Give a look. Oh, Jesus. When his brother's bill falls due, when he steps off the chariot and flicks the dust from his patent leathers with his silk handkerchief, when he stands in front of the Jasper Gate, patting his tie, and then paces in, cane and knees working like well-oiled, slow-timed pistons. Lord help us, give a look at it. Don't make him dress up in no nightgown, Lord. Don't put no fuss and feathers on his shoulders, Lord. Let him know it's heaven. Let him keep his hat, his vest, his elk's tooth, and everything. Let him have his spats and canes. Let him have his spats and canes. One point, I don't like to tell tall tales. I believe in the fact, the actuality, as my legal friends would say. He walked in the Howard Theater to row A with opera glasses and focused them on Paul Robeson. You don't need opera glasses to see Paul Robeson from a block away, but you do have to have, comme il faut, you have to have, the glasses. I just wanted to show there's no flight of the fancy there.
I hope this poem isn't too long. I want to read it because it is a contrast in the cultures within a race. I had an occasion to go into a tenement house on some business, and I hesitated when they opened the door. The walls were dirty. The woman was barefoot. I didn't know where I would sit, and I said, "Snob, go in. Don't hesitate." So I went in, and there on the wall the woman had cut from Life magazine, Gottsley's Journey of the Magi, that Journey of the Magi that's reproduced in the Renaissance mood. And she hadn't framed them, just cut them out of Life magazine and pasted them along the wall. I read this because this is one poem on which Sterling and I come together.
We did that a lot of poems,
Okay. Procession. Gopsely's Journey of the Magi hangs on a tenement wall. Ring, hammer, ring. That hammer is time, yesterday and forever, pounding man to stretch dimensions as he nurses a private hope. Low ceiling under high sky, feet treading boards of the solid way, avoiding paths trapped by the image haunted. Going to house my wings, going to fly high in New Jerusalem. Where gray twilight falls away, hangs a miracle in which wax-curled kings, ermine brocaded, travel to Bethlehem. White steeds poised to the trumpet, immobile figures of grandeur burn a mark golden at the crossroads to a dream, and they nailed him to a tree, to a tall black tree. How the hammer do ring. Moving and motionless, birth is the great mystery. A name on Bible page, the cry from castle walls, man's dream of renewal. The miracle recorded of God in man. From this miracle comes another. The infinite takes familiar form. God is a friend the lowly walk hand in hand with through the quiet byways. Please, forgive us, Lord. We didn't know 'twas you. Stream flowing to single birth, croon of the infinite, dead at the personal breast, and sweet little Jesus boy, they made you be born in a manger. The lit journey, the Magi bearing gifts, and the final stable, a tenement wall. Is it that man and art must end beneath the crumbling cities? We who travel the way from innocence cry out for direction beyond the journey. Hours revolving in an iron schedule, sun to moon.
And the older people at that time were, of course, more prone to a nonviolent posture. Young people were saying, but even Christ employed force at one time in the temple. And I remember this good lady, a good sister, and she was just horrified to think that these young people were saying that Jesus Christ was a violent person. And this lady's voice rang in my mind. I heard that voice, and as a result, I wrote this poem that comes out of it. It's not quite the idiom of her speech, but maybe the approximated it. It's called In the Temple. Were you there when Jesus jumped down the throat of the moneylenders? It was something else. Like a maniac. You never saw him in such a state. Always so peaceful, you know. Yelling, get out, get out. And when they don't move fast enough, took a whoop. Did you ever? Snatch it from somebody. Didn't carry one. Polices left it. And that man began to swing away. I'm telling you. Sweet, gentle Jesus. Kind, meek Jesus. No siree. Not that mister. Racing up and down the temple, scowl all over his face, left arm pumping up and down. Never knew he was left-handed. When the people got their wits, they ran and told Mary. Mary, your boy Jesus, he in the temple going crazy. He beating on the moneylenders all up and down the building, from the altar clean out the door. Mary ran as fast as she could. Poor Mary. She lately had such trouble with that boy. Throwing off her apron as she ran. She come tearing around the corner just when Jesus was working on a bunch like he's planed into a dusty rug. Ka-wham, whoop say. Mary starting up the steps, hands up in the air. Jesus, my little Jesus. Kawam or what say. Get out of here, he yelled. Jesus, my little Jesus, I thought I taught you never hit nobody. Leave that to the police. They're the best in the business. But that boy was out of his head. He said, look out, Mama. Look out now. Get out of the way, Mama. Mama, you're going to get hit. Did you ever? I'm telling you, never in my born days. Mary first sort of pleased, then she moaned. But all of a sudden she said, stop this foolishness at once. Didn't do no good. Mama, these is money changes. These money changes. Can't you understand that? Well, that's the way it went. No, she can't control that boy. Can't control him no more. Just had to wait till it was all over before she could get him to head back home. I was following from a distance. She was carrying on something awful. You forgetting your raising and everything? People gonna start wondering whose child you are. Whooping people. You wait till I tell your father. The Lord knows what he's gonna do to you. I'm telling you, and funny thing, after all that who struck John, the quietest look came over that boy's face. Well, I suppose further deponents say it not. Thank you very much.
That is one of the best.
We're all sharing
Excuse me.
Thank you very, very much. I don't know what time it is because I gave up my watch. Oh, okay. Well, we're pretty close to time. We're going to take a break.
These are all Betty's.
Oh, there's all that.
There are restaurants in the area. There are also two cafeterias. One is the Free Park and one is the Library of Congress.